Welcome to the Panoptic Gamers Podcast, the show where we discuss all aspects of gaming, from the face values of genres to the deeper meanings within. No topic is safe.
You ever heard of like Hank Green?
Hank Green?
Green.
No.
Oh yeah. Well, he's like the brother of what's his name? Another Green. I cannot remember his name right now. And basically, right. He does a con, VidCon, I believe. He does VidCon. And he's doing these scary games right now, like let's play with Hank, and he's putting on the Oculus Rift, and he's doing these scary games with Oculus Rift.
Okay.
And he just can't deal with it. It's so funny to watch him play these games.
Yeah.
Because he's like, it's like a sensory overload for him, like, to do this. And you know, you're when you're in the Oculus Rift, that's all you see is these scary things happening, and it's like a whole level of immersion. So, and then you have a camera on him where he just screams, and then he's just making every freaking like weird like non-curse word he can say to like deal with this.
Okay.
You know.
What's his name again?
Hank Green.
Hank Green.
Yeah, you want me to? I'll link it to you.
Okay.
Let's see.
I mostly like other people's reactions. I think it's hilarious, especially if you ever watch Jesse Cox. His reactions are just the best, because he just like freaks out so badly.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just uploaded a video of him playing a game called, what was it called? Claire. It's called Claire.
Yeah.
And essentially you play, it's a pixely 2D game, and it has a lot of just moving around and just scare tactics in it. And you play through different phases of her life. So at first you play as her as a little girl, and then she like wakes up from that as you were playing a dream, and she's like a teenager now.
Yeah.
So, and then I think I don't know, I haven't seen anything past that, but so apparently it's really good, and it's got some really interesting visuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but since it's October, I want to talk about, scary games and stuff, as you know.
Because it's Halloween, and
it's Halloween. Halloween's coming up. It's not Halloween yet, but Halloween's coming up, and I'm prepping for it by playing scary games.
To keep with the theme of scary games, it's just funny. Like, Halloween is about scary things and the dead and like spirits and all that, but it's not scary. Halloween is not really that scary.
Well, I think because a lot of the times we're desensitized to what's scary, especially with the as things get made, you end up getting more and more desensitized to them. So it's kind of like a game of cat and mouse with the industry for gaming and movies and so forth. So everyone, the industry is trying to take the next step to scare them even more, scare people even more, and so as that happens, people tend to get more desensitized to these things. So
yeah, I know, but I mean, like, you take everyone like deals with scary like in a way of like disarming it. You got to disarm the scary, and that's like how the holiday kind of like, I just see that with the holiday itself. Like, I think at one point Halloween was actually kind of scary, but it was also a celebration. So it started off, eventually somehow we got that tradition of go door to door and get candy for children, the trick-or-treating kind of tradition.
Yeah.
And And then like, but then like people are like, oh, that's fun, but what can the adults do, because we don't have kids or something like that. So Halloween parties started, but then, Halloween parties just soon just kind of turned into costume parties.
Yeah.
You could dress up and be anything. You didn't have to be scary anymore. And then, so I mean, that's how it is today. It's more like
True, but
just
then
an
but then you
excuse
get
to put on a
the
costume.
families that go nuts and buy all kinds of crazy stuff to make their lawns as scary as possible. I remember going to some houses and they were
Yeah, but that's
terrifying. Like these
I didn't
people
think they
would
were
go
terrifying. I
nuts.
thought it was just incredibly cool. Like, oh my God, because I know this isn't real.
So my
You know,
dad wanted to so badly dress up like as like sort of like a scarecrow or something, sit in a chair with like a bucket on their lap and if with a sign that says, take one.
yeah.
And then like just stand there so it looks like a fake thing that you go up and just take a candy. Oh, it's scary.
Oh,
And then my dad would just like come at you. Oh my
yeah.
god,
That
that would
was,
be so terrifying. And
dude. That
he never did it, but he was like, I really want to some one year.
that's exactly what happened in like when I was a little kid. We went to a haunted house, and that's exactly like one of the rooms. It was the first room. It was the first room in the haunted house, and it was like this like old like there was like leaves around, and it looked like a scene, like just a scene of fall. It was like a dark scene of fall and like a shack, pretty much. And then there was a scarecrow in the middle of it, like as a centerpiece. And I'm just like, all right, this is just to only warm you up. This is just the entrance and everything. There's nothing here. And so we went and took our candy, and then the scarecrow just comes out like, boo, and like, oh my god, like just hit the wall. Like could not deal with that at the very moment. Like
Yeah.
completely convinced that that thing was not a real person.
Yeah, well, when something comes at you like that, it's like you lose all sense of what to do.
Caught off guard, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I feel like
that.
there's many different ways to scare people. We got different scare tactics. I've
Yeah,
noticed
and
I've
that's
noticed not only in like, Halloween parties and stuff like that, but also in video games that they tend to have a lot of jump scares or foreshadowing scares. Or even like I kind of like the lights off, lights on scares where like everything
I
looks
hate
very
those.
happy and regular and then the lights just go off suddenly and then they come back on and then like there's blood written on the walls or there's like writing that says you'll die and it's just like over and over again and then the lights go off again and then the lights come back on and it's back to normal and you're like what the fuck just happened.
Well, I'm not, yeah. It's like because when the lights go, when the lights go off, like something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, and you don't know
You
what's
know,
gonna happen though. That's the thing. You have no idea what's gonna happen.
yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to put an experiment though. Like sometimes the lights go off and nothing happens. But yeah, you have those different kinds of scares. Like there's the startle, which is a cheap, fast, and almost always works, but it does get old really fast.
Yeah. You can
Um,
overuse it. It's very easy
you
to overuse it.
Yeah, and then there's the slow burn scare, the build up, oh, we're gonna walk down a hallway. The hallway, every time you take a step, is gonna make an incredibly loud creak,
Or like
and then you're gonna
the walls
hear
start bleeding.
maybe the wall starts bleeding. Maybe you start hearing a little girl echoing down the hallway, saying "Ring around the rosy."
Yep. You hear
Maybe
whispers.
maybe you hear rustling down the hallway and tee hee hees. Because
Teehees.
yeah, tee hee hees, man. You know that. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
but those teehees though.
They're just such they're they're so they're so disturbing. Like what the hell? God damn it. Um, this is not a laugh. This is not a time to laugh. Damn it. We're
No,
not laughing. It's not funny.
no. Especially when the walls are bleeding and you hear teehees.
Yeah,
You're like, what the fuck is going
yeah. It's
on
like,
right
ah,
now?
man. You should see a doctor about that.
Oh my
It's not a
god.
good thing.
A lot of times they'll combine that, like the build up, and then they'll like go for you having a vision scare. It's sort of like a jump scare, but like your vision is obscured by something like right in front of your face, and
Yeah,
then it just goes away.
yeah. And they well, let's see. There's a great Amnesia Dark Descent. There's a great like example of just a mental like scare, a psychological scare. The whole game is built off of a like Lovecraftian like horror, and Victorian era, like that's you're in the Victorian era, and people think that alchemy is a real thing, and like ghosts and spirits and science are kind of like an amalgamation of everything because people still believe in ghosts and spirits,
Right.
but they also believe in like the power of science and stuff. And so the game is kind of like it's trying to explain things through like exploration, and like they're using alchemy to make, and they make these acids and stuff. But like point is they have it's a psychological scare. Like what happens with the game is you have like very in the very beginning you're wandering through a hallway, and you just you hear like rustling, and the manor is just kind of worn down and stuff.
Yeah.
And you're going up a hallway, and it's dimly lit, and you have to go through some of the dark patches, and you go into a dark patch, and as you go into a dark patch you slowly take more insanity.
Yeah.
And as you take more insanity, the things around you become exaggerated.
Okay.
And it's really bad. Like sometimes, like when you're in the dark long enough, and you don't progress throughout the game, there will be like cockroaches on the floor. But then, as the insanity continues, the cockroaches start crawling around your screen, on your screen.
Really?
Like yeah, like
Wow.
the simulation of like bugs crawling all over you, kind of feel.
Okay.
But and anyways, so at one point I'm in the darkness, and you hear a noise, and just kind of pleading with himself, and then whimpering, and you're just crawling along. I'm like, just go! What are you doing? You're literally like paralyzed with like fear in the game, and in reality I'm just like, you gotta do more. You have to go faster. You have to get out of there. Don't be so helpless. And it turns out, like, this is early in the game, so the bad things don't really come after you. And so it just, like, nothing happens.
Okay.
And then, like, what's it? Another point in the game, I swear to God, I, like, turn the corner, and, like, Bigfoot is, like, walking around the other corner or something.
That's weird.
It just looked like some guy, somebody, something. It really freaked me out.
Okay.
Of course, the music instantly jumps to, like, dun dun dun. Like stuff is gonna go down, or you just saw something, or dissidents.
It
Anyways.
sounds like it's very ominous throughout the whole game.
Yeah. It's like the epitome of slow build up. And the other thing is it intrigues you because you kind of want to know what's going on. You're like, what's going on? What's happening?
What kind of what's the storyline though? Like, how does that play into the storyline?
So the storyline is basically that you don't know anything. And you eventually just see a blood trail on the ground, and you're like, okay, and so you start following it, and it leads you to a diary entry that you wrote, and you find out that your name is Daniel, and that you somehow purposely wiped your memory because you needed to do this, and that there was a darkness that was following you.
Oh, okay.
And you couldn't do anything about it. You just had to escape it for as long as possible, and eventually it was going to kill you, but you needed to do one thing before you died, and that was kill this other guy.
Oh, okay. You played Binding of Isaac, so tell me about that, because that sounded like a really scary game from what the images that I've seen.
The images? Well, the game isn't too scary. I think it's more creepy. It's very creepy. It's based on kind of like evangelical, like Christianity, and I don't know, that might not be correct, but it's definitely based on Christianity, and this woman believes that she hears God, and that her son somehow is a sinner, and that the only way to cleanse him is to kill him. And so the whole game is basically like Isaac trying to escape his mother through the basement, and he just goes lower and lower into this descent into like pretty much hell, and his weapon is tears. And basically the game is just kind of very creepy. Everything's like very very graphic and gory and stuff, but it's also cartoony. It's also like a dynamically generated Zelda dungeon, so it moves from room to room like Zelda Link from the Past.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and so the game is like, it's good. It's a great time killer, but it's not exactly scary. It's more like very hard and just very creepy.
Okay. So it's more creepy than scary?
Yeah. You don't actually. There's no like scare tactics to the game. It's just like, you meet all these disgusting and very creepy things that are based off of like, like the seven deadly sins
Oh,
and
okay.
like. And like as you get upgrades in the game, like make you more corrupted looking, like, and all of them are on all the upgrades are kind of like, you know, like mom's purse. Mom's purse is based on like kind of like a Christian sin of like it's not normal to dress up like a guy as a woman.
Oh, really?
So like you see him having like a wearing a purse now, and like you can get mom's high heels, and then it'll put him in like high heels,
Okay.
and like that's like against Christian like conservative views of Christianity. And there's other things like, oh god, there's like references to like abortion and that stuff too.
Wow.
It's actually if you took it seriously, it would be a very offensive game.
Wow. What do you got for your favorite scary game?
Well, favorite?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't play too many scary games. It's funny, like I kind of was turned off to scary in very, very early in my life, because like the first game that I had that had really any sort of scariness to it was Half-Life to me. The very first
Really?
Half-Life.
I didn't really
Yeah,
find that one too scary. I mean, sure you
when
had
did you
the
play it?
head crabs and like the
Yeah, but
original one.
when did you play it?
In college.
College. See, yeah. I played this game when my brother got it, and I think I was almost 14 or 12 at the time.
Okay.
And I started playing it, and you go through this long, deep, dark cave, to get to that like Black Mesa facility.
Right.
It took forever. It was like the
Oh,
longest.
yeah. That you're taking the
and-
tram?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so all that happened, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, but it was a little ominous because everything was, open and stuff. And so
Plus the guy
then,
on the PA is like, make sure you put all the chemicals away. And they're like, people in the background just like moving chemicals around and
yeah, and the spider bot and stuff.
yeah.
And so then that happens, and then like it's like a normal work and everything, and I'm like, ooh, and I was like Mario. I was like, gotta gather everything all, and I looked through all of the lockers and stuff, and then finally they bring you to the experimentation part, and you push the little like crystal into the beam, and then all hell breaks loose, and then everyone around me, like all these people that I was working with, they start dying, and they all just seem so helpless.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and they're getting destroyed by these head crabs and stuff. And the head crabs, oh my god, the head crabs just love to just jump right out of nowhere into your face. And it's just like, it freaked me out a lot, and I just like go nuts with the crowbar, just whack, 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 just die. And so all of that started happening, and I really got a sense of loneliness to myself, and the fact that I only had a crowbar made me feel very vulnerable, especially as a kid. And then finally, what ended up like really doing it for me was like I figured out, eventually, that I was gonna have to get out of this place, and that really I was like the only one who was probably gonna get out of it.
So
And
at that point, did it occur to you that the only way out was really that tram?
yeah, it occurred to me that I was gonna have to go through that entire like, all of those canyons and everything between that tram. That whole route was gonna have to be like walked somehow or something. And so, basically they laid out the game in front of me at the very beginning, and then the final like straw that broke the camel's back was just at the realization that the head crabs would start eating the heads and taking over those scientist bodies.
Yeah.
And that that wasn't like, I thought that those were just like zombie like creatures at first.
Yeah.
And then I realized that they were the actual scientists.
Yeah.
And it just was
Messed
like
up.
I just lost it after that. I was like, nope, not doing this game anymore. I'm not doing it. I can't deal with this. As a 14-year-old kid, I was like, no, I don't want to play this game anymore.
So you stopped playing at that point, and then just
Yeah,
didn't pick up a scary game ever again?
I just didn't like that feeling of just that aloneness, and like that it saddled you with this responsibility of like, you're gonna have to get out of this by yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
And and as a kid, I was like, this wasn't a great feeling. I mean, as an adult, I know that that's pretty much all of life. No one's gonna really help you.
Deep Thoughts by Vero.
Deep thoughts.
I'd have to say, I mean, as far as like my favorite scary experience, I just started replaying some Dead Space, and I really like it. I like the feel of it. I like the aesthetics of it. I mean, I honestly really like space games, so I end up gravitating towards those. And it can be pretty terrifying when even though you have like guns and an arsenal at your disposal, there's still the fear of them just being faster than you. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you end up making a lot of mistakes, or maybe using up too much ammo. And in a game like Dead Space, you're only given so much ammo, and if you save in a point where you kind of used up a little bit more than you would have wanted to, then you end up kind of screwing yourself, because you need that extra ammo maybe in the next room or something. And that's another kind of scare tactic that I think a lot of games are missing. Is that if you give someone, I mean, obviously, if you give someone like a limited number of things, then that's gonna be there in your mind that you need to conserve, be conservative with whatever it is, whether it's like batteries or ammo or whatever. I'd say actually that's my favorite scary game is Dead Space.
Dead Space.
Yeah.
That brings up like the point of like that there's like mainly two kinds of horror games. There is the fight or flight. There's the fight game and there's the flight game.
Yeah. I wanted to talk into that because I actually just saw a video by Extra Credits where they were talking about the protagonists and how the less that you have in your ability to fight something, the scarier the game can be, and that it adds to the game mechanics. Because if you are up against, like, the bigger the monster that you're fighting, or like the scarier, or the more that it looks like the bad guy is going to win, and the less that you have to fight them for it, the more likely it's going to be a successful game, because you're adding to that ability to scare people in a lot better of a way, like in a lot easier way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, so you have, we go back to the fight or flight game. Yeah, in a fight game, you have the ability to fight back, but usually what happens in fight games is that the ability to fight back is rather like difficult and usually ineffective at best. They put you in situations where fighting is like, okay, I have a revolver and I have 3 shots, and there are 4 guys. So you clearly can't kill them all with the gun, and even if you do, you don't want to use all your bullets, because what happens next?
Right.
So you're left with a lot of decisions of bad and worse.
That's true, but it also gives you the ability to look for alternatives on how to kill something. So maybe you have a revolver, but you might not want to use it for that situation. Maybe there's like a chandelier that you can cut or something, and then it'll drop down and kill something, and then you've saved a bullet for yourself.
That too.
Or something like that. So I agree. There's a lot of decision making, and I think that adds to the the quality of the game.
And then there's the part where the fight games love to do is they do the startle tactic, and when you have a gun and you're startled, you click the buttons.
Yeah.
You click them. You just click them. Just like make it go away.
Yeah, and your aim isn't really that great when you're scared.
Yeah.
You start moving the mouse around all over the place.
After you're done with those startle tactics, then you realize, oh, I've just probably consumed an entire clip. Oh, crap.
I've just emptied a clip in the wall next to the monster that I'm trying to hit.
Yeah. And you just feel really bad about that. But you're still freaking out because there's something there.
Yeah. A lot of times, these games give, like I said, alternatives to what you can do. I remember when I was playing Alan Wake, there were points in the game where there's a number of guys that are after you, and you may have either used up a lot of ammo, or that certain guys take a certain amount of ammo to kill, and you're just like, what do I do? I don't have enough resources to take care of the situation. When really the game is telling you you're supposed to run. You don't fight these guys. You're supposed to run away and get to the light so that they go away automatically. Because what happens is sometimes there's like generators hooked up to lampposts, and when you run to them, you're bathed in light, so you can't be hurt by the darkness. So these apparitions that are pretty much made up of darkness, they can't get you, and they end up just like kind of disappearing when you're bathed in light.
Just dissipate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. That's a classic horror tactic. I mean, you see that in Doctor Who. Doctor Who has the one where they're at the high-tech library that on another planet.
Yeah.
And like every time you go into darkness, there's this like microbial nano thing that lives in the darkness, and it'll just like consume you like a piranha. Be nothing left but bones.
Yeah.
So they're like fighting the sunset and trying to find light and everything the whole time. There's
That's such a great episode. That's one of my favorites, apart from the Weeping Angels, which is a very terrifying episode.
Yeah, but I mean, in some cases it's terrifying, but in other cases it's like it's not.
It's benign. Like, they're benign, like stone statues that don't move. It was such a brilliant idea.
But the consequence of them getting you isn't death. It's just living a life in the past.
That's true. But that can be, almost like a death in and of itself, because you're essentially
it's a death to everyone
dying,
else.
And then, I mean, you're not dying, but essentially your life as you know it is over. You have to create another life in the past.
True. I mean, but it's not. Oh man, that'd be such a good, like, after you're done your witness protection program, you can be like, all right, I want to go into the past and I'll live my life here.
Yeah, witness protection in the future. It's just will time travel you to a different point in time
before it happens.
You'd have to go in the future though. You couldn't like go in the past, because then you'd screw up the timeline.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Those angels work in weird ways, but that's how they do it. They send you to the past.
That's true.
But yeah, I don't know. That I could go on about Doctor Who forever.
It's a pretty terrifying episode.
Yeah. They definitely do a good job with the scare tactics, or like the creep tactic with the angels. The angels were a very well designed enemy.
Yeah, especially with like the hands like over the eyes.
Oh yeah, the first episodes when they introduced them, the angels. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Just screw that. And then there's another episode.
And then like the lights go off and the lights come on and they're like slightly closer and they're like ah. And then the lights go off and they come on again and they're like even closer. They're like in your face and you're like, I can't blink. Don't blink. Ah.
And then, but there's like later on, there were there's an episode with like baby angels and they're like little cherubs.
Little
cherub statues.
Yeah.
That was creepy too. Yeah.
It's messed up.
And they were like in the dark and they were like you could hear them skittering around in that episode.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They're like in the attic or something, right?
I don't remember. I think they were in a basement.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they were in like they were in a basement or like a storage unit thing or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that plays off of like a few primal fears. With the angel thing, like fear of survival, because I mean, like in this case, you're not gonna die. It's just that like you're gonna be sent back, and like it's gonna have drastic consequences, and everything's gonna change, and you're stuck there, and everyone that you've known and loved is gone.
yeah,
You know, so it's like the fear of living afterwards
yeah,
of of doing that. That's really like a scary thing. Unknowns, really, the fear of unknowns and the fear of unpredictability. You know, like the darkness is like an unknown. You can't know where they are, and that really screws things up for you. It's just something that we can't. It just gets our adrenaline pumping.
yeah. There's a game that kind of reminds me of the Weeping Angels, and I played a little bit of it. It's called SCP Containment Breach. And I know I talked to you about this a while ago, and you
Yeah, it
didn't
was like
seem
an
too
open.
interested in it.
It was like an open source game, right?
Yeah, so it's free and it's in like alpha or something. I think it's in alpha or beta. It's not done yet, definitely. But the thing is, like, so you have a blink meter, and every like 10 or 20 seconds, I think it's 10 seconds. Every 10 seconds you blink, so like the lights, the whole screen goes black and it goes back to what you were seeing. But in that time, if you're looking at this entity that they're holding, it's kind of like a government facility that they're holding all these like unknown creatures in, and this one
Yeah.
creature can only move when it's not being looked at, which essentially is a weeping angel. But it doesn't
Yeah.
like turn to stone or anything. It just freezes in place and it can't move.
Yeah.
And so like throughout the game, you're this like test subject, and so they like put you into this room with like two other guys, and they tell you, okay, make sure all of you are just looking at this guy, this thing. I don't know why they would have you do this. This is kind of a fucked up experiment. But anyways, and then like what happens is like something happens in the facility where like the lights go dark and then like shit breaks and then
Yeah.
things fail and then the lights come back on and then like you see
Like
the lights come off and on and like the guy is like the thing is attacking people and like dismembering them and eating them and like breaks through and goes like down the hall and you have to like escape or something and you're trying to go through all these rooms and not see this thing and there's there's an elevator that you go to and you go down the elevator and like the further floors that you go down there's like other things that you encounter that you have to not die from. It's a pretty difficult game.
Yeah.
So it's mostly just a survival horror genre game.
Hmm.
And the graphics aren't terribly great, but honestly that doesn't really matter. You're not really looking at much.
Yeah, I mean, graphics aren't a huge detail when it comes to horror games because, I mean, you can have some really good graphics in the horror games, but, you're really not concerned with the graphics. You're more, if they do it right, your level of immersion is good enough where you just start going, you just really wish that, it was over, that you want to get through it,
Yeah.
that you're not concerned, that you're like, okay, it's good enough for me, I want out now.
Yeah, graphics don't really matter a whole deal. It's mostly the scare tactics that are implemented and the effects that are used to toy with the human emotion of fear.
Yeah.
Yep. And on that note, I think it's time to end this episode of Scariness.
All right, man.
So I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and I think it was a pretty good show today. What do you think?
Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube videos, and yeah, we'd love to hear comments and questions, and let us know what you guys want to hear us talk about.
Yeah, and go to snaptocover.com. 2 is in the number 2. And log on or register. Yeah. So, register today and check out some awesome content on there. I think Tobin's going to be uploading some footage of his sister-in-law playing Outlast. So that should be fun.
Oh, God. Dude, we did not talk about the Outlast session,
No.
but yeah, that was actually a lot of fun it was fun in a very masochistic way to play Outlast with a bunch of friends. You, me, and Stockdale did Outlast. We played. I screamed like a little girl. There was whiskey everywhere, and there were bad things on the screen.
Shit.
We all rotated, Okay, well, I finished getting the elevator working. Now you have to do this objective before you can stop playing.
Yeah.
It was such a great motivation tactic. Just
It was.
get through this part,
Yeah.
get through this part, and you can stop.
There were a lot of scare tactics in there that were implemented very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Bye.